Well, if we're gonna find any ghosts, we better split up.
You're listening to Never Split Up, a horror movie podcast.
There are certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a horror movie.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Never Split Up podcast. I'm Nolan alongside Ant as always, and today we are covering The Blackcoat's Daughter, released theatrically in 2017. What's up, Ant? How you doing?
I'm good. How's it going?
Going good. We kind of took a bit of a break, a week off. That was a little unexpected. Life just got in the way, but I'm back to. I'm happy to get back on the saddle with you and talk Blackcoat's Daughter. I know you've been looking forward to this movie. You've been saying on the podcast that it's kind of a hidden gem, Osgood Perkins. You know, it was. I think I read it was technically his directorial debut, even though it released after. It was the second movie of his to release theatrically, but it did get made first, and it was, I think, on festivals first. So this was his directorial debut, and yeah, I know you're an Osgood Perkins fan, and you're looking forward to this. So yeah, here we are, right at the end of winter, just in time for the end of winter, and this is a cold movie. Very cold. Oh,
yes, it is.
Movie.
February. Yeah, fun fact, it was originally titled February, so it's got that winter vibe.
Yeah. That's cool. That's a cool title too. I like The Blackcoat's Daughter. I prefer it.
Yeah, me too. But February. It looks like because it takes place obviously in February, but it looks like a fucking like nasty like cold February. I'm like, oh, I don't want to be there.
Oh yeah. Before we get into that, do you want to just shout out, like always, our last couple episodes? And
for sure.
I think we got some good feedback and some good numbers on the last couple episodes. Do you want to just shout those out real quick?
Yeah, for sure, guys. So our February run was pretty good. We covered Scream 3 to celebrate its 25th anniversary. Obviously, if you guys know what Scream is, go check that episode out. We had fun talking about that movie. And then for Valentine's Day, we covered The Loved Ones, which was an underrated, underseen Australian horror movie. So make sure you guys check that episode out. We had some huge feedback for that when we had a guest, Oriana Nichelle, on. Again, thank you so much to her. We can't wait to collaborate with her again. We have some things in the works. We'll make it happen. And then our newest episode was our top 10 favorite horror movie plot twists, which I always have a lot of fun doing our rankings. And you guys always tell us how much you enjoy our rankings episodes. So I'll make sure I post a poll to see what kind of ranking you want us to do next. But check out that episode. Let us know your top 10 favorite horror movie twists. I thought we both had some good picks. So show that episode some love. We always have a lot of fun ranking our favorite, whatever ranking we're doing. I have a blast doing that. Even though it's stressful, I have a blast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again, thank you, everyone. I thought we had a good run, like you said, the last month or so. And we're looking to keep it rolling into March and into the springtime. So keep a lookout for some special episodes. We're going to try to get some more ranking episodes out there for you. And we'll always do our movie reviews. But yeah, we're going to try to cook up some good content. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
And make sure you're following us on social media. We'll definitely keep everyone updated on that. So, okay, without further ado, why don't we dive right in? Ooh. This is The Blackcoat's Daughter, Osgood Perkins. You know, he is kind of in the news a lot. He had two kind of interesting movies in Longlegs, and then most recently The Monkey. I have not seen The Monkey yet, but I know it's being talked about a lot, like on film Twitter and stuff. So,
hell yeah.
He's kind of just booked and busy right now, so that's why we figured we'd go back to his first movie and kind of take it from there, because we know we like to do it chronologically here on the podcast. We don't like to jump around. So
so guys, like Nolan said, this premiered at a film festival, a Toronto International Film Festival in 2015. So it was his first directorial debut, but then it was released to mass and wide audiences, limited theatrical run in 2017 here in the States. And the plot synopsis from IMDb is: during winter break, two students stay in an all-girls boarding school in the company of a terrifying presence. Like Nolan said, it was directed and written by Osgood Perkins, my man, and it stars some horror girlies who I love. It stars Kiernan Shipka, Lucy Boynton, and Emma Roberts. And we also have James Remar. He was from Dexter. Lauren Holly has a little role. She was in Dumb and Dumber. Um, yeah, I mean Emma Roberts is obviously she has the horror good. She's in American Horror Story. She's in Scream 4. You can keep talking about her and her horror credits. Kiernan Shipka's a little bit of a scream queen with Totally Killer. She was in the Sabrina show on Netflix, which I enjoyed, and a couple other horror credits. And Lucy Boynton, she was in his second feature film, I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House, and she was in one a really good movie from the last couple years. I like Sing Street, so if you guys haven't checked that out, it's not a horror movie, but it's a really good, upbeat, fun movie. So yeah, the cast is great. I have seen all of Osgood Perkins' movies, so I don't know about you, but I definitely have a ranking. But I think the only one that didn't really work for me was I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House. So other than that, I really do enjoy his whole filmography. And I will say this one has DNA of Longlegs in it for sure. I think Longlegs was a little bit lighter and not as slow and just dark and bleak. It has a little bit of fun Longlegs, but this one literally has the, Hail Satan comparison. So it shares the DNA. And I also enjoyed his Gretel and Hansel movie too. And I fucking love the monkey. So but yeah, so let's get into this. This is his original, and you can tell that it was his first feature film, but we'll see if that works to his credit or not when we get into it.
Okay, cool. Yeah. We'll just get right into our kind of overall thoughts, whether or not we recommend the movie, and then we'll get into spoilers afterwards. Yeah, like you said, I agree. It definitely has the Longlegs feel. It feels like this was the blueprint, and this was his kind of movie that he was allowed to make first, and then now that he's an established director, he was allowed to take this blueprint and make a film like Longlegs with Nicolas Cage, and so I think this movie, like you said, it's you could tell it's an early director. I don't know why. I just, maybe knowing that going in, it's a little bit biased, but and because I've seen some of his other work, maybe I can just tell that it's kind of just a little rougher around the edges, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes I like
feels
that
very
raw,
small compared
to
that
very raw, gritty, small film. So yeah, the cast is unbelievable. I think that's one of the highlights because it's so isolated in its tone. You really just have these characters, and that's what you're working with. And you, like you said, it's a small cast. Other than the 4 that you mentioned, or the 5 that you mentioned, you had the 2 housekeeper ladies. They were very minor, but other than them, it was our 3 girls, and it was James Remar, and they carried the whole movie. And I thought they did a good job. I think all 4 of them kind of pulled their weight, and even Kiernan Shipka, she was probably 14, 15 at the time, and
she was a baby.
She really showcase her acting chops in this. Yeah. Because she is, I would consider her the main. I mean, when you watch this movie, her performance is what you remember from it, from obvious reasons, without getting too much into spoilers. So,
right,
like you said, it's a very slow burn. It doesn't really have any levity like Longlegs does. It's very cold and isolated. I will say, I wish we got more of the isolation vibes. I know we just covered a movie called The Lodge. Check that episode out, guys. That one does it to perfection. I feel like this one leaves a little bit, it leaves you wanting a little bit more. I know it's kind of implied, and I'm fine with that, but I wish I would have seen a little bit more, especially from Kiernan Shipka's character. See a little bit more of her descent into what she becomes, if that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, I have some small gripes with it. It's a very disorienting movie, the way it tells its story, and obviously that's intentional. So,
right,
that's something to keep in mind. You really have to pay attention to this movie, because if you're just kind of watching it casually, you're going to be completely lost by the end of it, I think, and you're probably not going to like it. So definitely go in with the right mindset. And I think if you like slow burn movies, if you like the possession, Satan, cult stuff, you'll like this movie for sure.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off that. I mean, I really, I don't want to give a ranking because I do want to rank his filmography, and The Monkey is so new, so I don't want to give that away, but I think this one's like an early gem of his. I really, really, really adore this movie. I mean, you know me, I like bleak, and like this is a cold movie, like not even just because it takes place, it's just a cold, mean, bleak movie about loneliness, really, is what this movie is really about. Like, they're all lonely and they're trying to, you know, find some relations with maybe and where they shouldn't. I really do think Osgood Perkins like showcases that he has the goods as a director. You know, he's the offspring of a horror legend, Anthony Perkins, who directed one of the Psychos. So he's always been around horror, but I think that when he took the jump to directing, he really made it happen with this. I think the cast is all great. I think the final shot of this movie, it's so heartbreaking for maybe some reasons that you don't expect. It's just, oh, it's so dark. He doesn't like let up. It's not like Long Legs where it is a dark movie and it is like bleak, but it also has like Long Legs is fun too to me, like fun and light, and it has some humor in it. There's not really any humor in this movie. Kiernan Shipka, she's a star. I think she kills it. I think she's made for the horror genre. She also kills it in the cameo in Long Legs that she has, but she is our biggie in this movie just because of what happens to her character. But I think that Lucy Boynton is great, as I would guess call her the protagonist of the story. And I love like how Emma Roberts is stitched in throughout. They're really our main trio. Like Nolan said, if you don't like slow movies, this one's not for you. Like, I can't really recommend it at all because it is slow, emphasis on slow, but I think that's why I really enjoy it, because it builds up, and builds up on you. And it's also, like you said, it's not linear storytelling. So if you like structure and chronological events in your movies, this is also not for you because it kind of jumps around between three different women's stories. But I think that adds to the charm of it. And I absolutely I adore this movie, and every time I watch it, I do get that cold, dark feeling. And I like the isolation at the school. I like how it feels isolated. You feel the loneliness of these characters. So yeah, I fuck with this movie. I like it a lot. I really enjoy this movie.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. You said it's a slow burn. I agree because not a lot happens. Literally,
Right.
not a lot happens, but you do get those disturbing imagery throughout. You know, you get the quick shots and you get the audio cues and you get some inner imagery that, you know, it's not like it's boring. So I
Right.
definitely
No.
recommend it for people. I mean, as long as you can sit down and you're in it for the long haul and you really pay attention, I mean, there is, you will get rewarded throughout the movie, and especially at the end. So
Yes.
yeah, it is a slow burn. So if you're not a fan of those, but it does reward you throughout, and it kind of keeps you on your toes just enough to keep you interested to see kind of where all these characters land.
Yeah, it's not a jump scare fest at all. It's a slow movie that like builds up the dread. It's not worried about, pop outs or any jump scares. It just leaves you feeling like, oh, I don't feel good. It's one of those movies.
Yeah.
Which I
Okay,
love.
cool. All right.
Let's
Sounds like
rip the
we
bandit off
both
because there's spoilers.
pretty much
for this.
recommend it. Yeah.
Oh
for
yeah, I
most people.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely watch this before the weather gets too warm.
Oh yeah.
It's definitely got those cold vibes. And yeah, let's get right into it. What do you want to talk about first? This is the spoiler part of the review.
Yes, guys.
So
We
if
got.
you haven't watched it, you can pause and go watch it if you want, and then come back.
How did the storytelling work? You have like each character's name, we kind of like follow each character a little bit, and that's how we jump around from story to story to story. How did that work for you, like the nonlinear storytelling? I thought it added to its charm because it is so slow. I think the fact that that's what made him have us pulled into it, I think that was smart to have him tell the story that way. So we're not just doing a basic, slow build up, slow build up, slow build up. We're jumping around a little bit and kind of bring it together to the end where, oh shit, that's the reveal. I knew the reveal, like I guessed the reveal very early, but that wasn't the point of it. But how did it work for you? Like all the jumping around and the nonlinear storytelling of it all.
I got to be honest, I usually don't love it, and it took a little bit for it to grow on me for this movie, but I do feel like it works for this movie. I normally don't love stories like this.
Depends, yeah.
Yeah, it does depend, but it does work. Now that I've watched it a few times, it works. I'm fine with it. I think the first time it's been a while since I watched it. My first watch. and it was pretty, like I said, disorienting, and
Yes.
I don't think I was in the right frame of mind, and I was like very confused by the end of it. So, but upon, dissecting the movie for this podcast and kind of like going in with a more, not analytical, but with a more kind of like, all right, I'm going to review this movie. I do appreciate how it's chopped up like that, because it does kind of break it up in a way to where, it's a little necessary because it's such a slow burn.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And it's also not one of those movies, guys, where like it starts at the ending, which that is my pet peeve with so many horror
Yeah.
movies, that it jumps around, but it's not like this is what's gonna happen. You're gonna see that later in the movie, but we're gonna open here too.
Yeah.
That works for me very rarely. Some movies pull it off, but that's very rare where that kind of plot device works for me. So this doesn't do that.
It doesn't
which
give
I'm happy.
anything away right away, like
Right.
you said. It doesn't. Yeah, no, it doesn't do that. So that's fine.
Have you seen all of his movies besides The Monkey? I'm curious. Have you seen like
No.
okay.
No.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know my ranking, so we're gonna have to go through those.
This is just like 100% the closest to like Longlegs, as in like relation wise. But again, Longlegs just has more humor. It's not like Gretel and Hansel. It's definitely not like The Monkey. And I Am the Pretty Things is probably his like slowest, even slower than this movie. But yeah, I was just curious because he does show that he can handle different tones, which I appreciate in his filmography. But what do you think about the setting and the location? Did the like, school work for you and everything? By the way, shout out to one of like the housemaid nuns. Like her name is Miss Prescott, which I was like, oh, I like that nod right there, sir.
Yeah, I like the setting. What I kind of alluded to in my overall thoughts. I wish we got a little bit more like establishing shots and stuff, and kind of the landscape of the campus. It was a little, again, not to overuse this word this episode, but it was a little disorienting because I assumed when I was first watching this movie that it was kind of an isolated campus in the middle of nowhere, and then when you find out during Joan's arc, it's pretty much like right off the highway, so it's really not. It's like in like a regular town.
Joan.
So it was a little like, oh, okay. So I wish I got a little bit more of kind of establishment, especially with the first two, with Catherine and with Rose's storylines. I wish we got a little bit more of like exactly what their situation is, because all of a sudden we're thrown into winter break and it's just them two alone,
right? And
it's like, oh, okay. So I do wish we got a little bit more of kind of setting that up, but I do like the setting. I think some of those shots, especially like the hallways, like the older hallways with the double doors and the phone, like the old school.
It's eerie. It's just eerie.
Phone. Yeah. And, it's good. Yeah, I like it.
I also read that like the outdoor scenes, it was like they were actually freezing. I think the week that Emma Roberts filmed all of her outdoor scenes, it was the coldest weather like recorded in like where the city they filmed it in Canada. So like it was fucking cold when they filmed it too, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, you can tell.
You can tell, like, especially
there's
at the
no
end,
faking
like,
that. Yeah,
no. What about the relationship? Because we do start like Emma Roberts is kind of like in her own story until the end. So what about the relationship between Rose and Kat? I thought it was interesting that like he presented it as like almost you feel bad for Kat in the beginning because like, oh, her parents aren't reaching out to her, and then Rose is kind of like your typical senior like kind of like bitchiness in the beginning, but then as the story goes on, you kind of like slowly flip to like Rose being the protagonist, so you kind of feel for her and her situation with her, is she pregnant or not and all that. That's why she's like delaying her parents coming. But I thought it was cool how he started like Rose is kind of like a bitchy one, you think, but then she really is the one like you're rooting for to make it out of this alive.
Well, yeah, what you said is correct, but at the same time, the viewer knows that Rose is our protagonist, I think, right away, because the first scenes with Catherine are very creepy in their own way without explaining to. Like, the priest scene where she's in there and she's like smiling off in the corner.
She's got some shit going on for sure.
Yeah, she's got shit going on. So you kind of already are like, okay, something's going to happen with Catherine. So I think we're going to be on Rose's side. So even though she is a bitch, it's like that weird kind of dynamic that he sets up right away because Catherine is kind of mysterious. So I liked how he did that.
And Kiernan Shipka, she does that stare so well, like staring off into space in this movie. I'm like, girl, you're killing it. But I also really
you're
think
right.
that,
He was like perfect for this role. The way that they for this script and everything. The some of the shots and the look on her face and the way she kind of the one scene where she's talking to Rose and she's like, "You had your chance." I think that was the line, and Rose was like, "What the fuck did you say?" Before she locked herself.
I'm
in the
so
room.
Rose. She's like, "What the fuck am I doing? Like, who the fuck is this bitch?" But I really do think the actress who plays Rose did very, very good job. She doesn't get
me
enough credit
too.
that Lucy
Me
Boynton.
too. Yeah, we have the whole she thinks she's pregnant, and
yes,
you find out that that's why she delayed her parents coming because
Right.
she wanted to talk to the I guess it's a local guy who she thinks knocked her up, so she wanted to kind of talk to her. So they leave on bad terms. They kind of like, I guess, break up in a way. And so you kind of do feel you're getting that, sympathetic vibe for Rose, even though she is kind of like, I wouldn't even really call her bitchy. It was just more of like,
yeah, she's just
who's this freshman? Like, I'm not going to babysit you. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just.
Why is this my job? Like, I'm just.
It was kind of unfair for the principal to like throw that on her.
And he just pieced out. Like, he's like, I do really like the first time she finds Kat like in the boiler room too. Like, her reaction is very like, I feel like all of us like, what the fuck is going on down there?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh no. So you have that immediate like, she's like kind of off put. Like, is this gonna get worse? I'm like, this is who I'm stuck with. Like, what else weird is gonna happen? So I like the way he sets the tone very well.
Yeah, again, like I said, the disturbing imagery, that boiler room scene was definitely hooks you for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
It's definitely like one of those scenes where you're like, okay, here we go. Like some shit's gonna go down eventually, even though it's a slow burn. Like, okay, something weird is happening. So, yeah, I that's one of my favorite shots. Obviously, it's just so creepy. Yeah,
it's so good.
She's just because there's nothing. It's just her and a boiler, and there's no like shadow work or anything. It's no. But that's all they needed. The way that they set it up, she's
speaking very like, dark and fucked up when she sees, she's like, what the fuck did she say? But there's no like, there's just her down there alone. She's like, why? What are you doing down there? And then when she tells her that her parents are dead, she's like, why the fuck are you saying this shit? And I do love, again, Kierna Shika, her convulsions and like all of her like contorting in bed. It's not over the top, which is why I appreciate it in this movie, because it's not like ridiculous, CGI. It's just her doing some weird shit, which I think makes it scarier.
I did think that was a little strange how she did that kind of convulsion in the bed, and then we never see that again the rest of the movie. I was like, what was that,
Yeah, you see it a little bit at the end when she's in the hospital with the priest, but other than that, yeah, nothing. Really.
Yeah, like during the exorcism, yeah. I mean, that's expected, but yeah, because in the end, spoilers, obviously, it's the devil. We'll just call it the devil, kind of, this horned shadow figure that's controlling her and telling her what to do, but I don't think he's necessarily, they don't really set it up in a way to make you believe that he's physically inside of her, like possessing her. I think he's just kind of commanding her, and he's in her mind commanding her. So yeah, it's super creepy. I love the shadow work they do and how they show him. It's like not in focus, but it's detailed enough to where you kind of can put together like what he looks like with your own mind. Even though it's just the outline, it's
the
imagination
really well done. It's subtle. It's very subtle.
And I do think that that's what she is seeing too. I don't think it's like she is just seeing that shadow. She doesn't know what he looks like in high definition.
Well, and it's sad because I feel like she just wants to see the real thing, and she wants it to be a part of her, because that's how lonely she is when you find out, she has nobody. Like, she wants that. She wants a connection so bad. She wants to connect with the devil or Satan, like a Satan worshiper, demonic worshiper. That's how lonely this girl is. She needs a connection, and that's the only one she could find.
So what do you think of that? What are your feelings on Catherine's character and her loneliness and how she has nobody? Do you think they executed that like pretty well?
Yeah,
I have some questions even after watching it back. And it's not like they all needed to be explained, but she had parents. That's confirmed. They were alive. They were gonna come see her, but were they like largely absent from her life? Like, obviously she doesn't really have friends, I guess, but that was never really. We don't get anything pre-winter break. We get like the day of winter, like the day the parents come, but everything before that we don't really. Technically we get some scenes of Catherine like with the shadow, I think, like maybe the days before the break,
because that's
but
when
we
she
don't
was
really
contacting
get
it,
I guess kind of our, a lot of movies do like a baseline of what the characters' everyday lives are. We don't get that at all, which is very, again, it's very
different. Yeah.
different. Yeah. So what did you think of all that? Like, were you fine with them not going into that a little bit more?
Yes, because I didn't want the first 25 minutes to be like, again, like this is fine when movies do it right, but I didn't want to see her be like the girl who's bullied and has no friends or the girl whose parents are absent. I kind of just like had the headcanon. I made up my own headcanon that like she was just an oddball and a loner the whole time. And she never, I don't think she had like bad parents, but I feel like her herself, she probably never could have a connection or relate to anyone. So that's why she went off trying to contact this entity. I didn't need to see the whole like, first 10 minutes of her getting bullied and shoved around. So I kind of like it didn't bother me. I get why some people would have the question like why did she turn to this like darkness? But for me it almost adds to the bleakness of her just immediately wanting to contact this entity and then just putting us right into the, isolation of just those two characters. It kind of added for it, in my opinion.
Well, that is kind of the confusion too, because when we get to Catherine's kind of storyline, so we start with Rose and then it kind of jumps back a little bit when we go into Catherine's POV. It's explained that she was already talking to this being before her parents passed away. So it's not like her parents died tragically and now she's all alone and now she's like succumbing to this, evil. She was already succumbing. So that is confusing in a way, but also in a way it is extra creepy because it's like, what would she have done if her parents didn't die? Would she have killed her parents? Like, would it have made her kill the parents? So you get the opening. We didn't even talk about the opening shot, like her dream sequence of the car that's crashed. Yeah, that was pretty eerie too. So yeah, I mean, she was already kind of getting possessed by this thing. So it makes you wonder, like, what was really going on in her life to warrant that.
She could have just been like a fucking bored girl, or we don't know, but she could have had a lot of trauma, which I think is also fascinating because this entity pretty much is instructing her, like, you need to kill everyone. So she's like on board, like, to have this relationship and like nobody else because she wants that immediate connection. That's her soulmate, really.
And I feel like it's right away too. So I mentioned it before. What was your interpretation of the scene with her talking to the priest and she's asking the priest like why he's not going to be at her performance, and she asked the priest like when are you coming back, and he's like not until after winter break, and like I feel like that made her happy because it's going to allow her to do the killings without him interfering, because as we see at the end of the movie he was able to kind of drive that entity away. So I feel like that was her kind of getting information out of him and just like, okay, all systems go, here we go.
Yeah, because she wants to impress this I'm gonna call Satan, whatever demon. I feel like she really wanted the acceptance of it. So she's like, I don't want any I don't want anyone like coming between us, really. Which I think it does add to the weirdness of it and the eeriness. Again, Kiernan Shipka, she delivers the lines and she never goes over the top because it could have got a little hokey. But I think she like plays it like pretty straight. There's a couple like, her smirking and like having the voice change, but I don't think it ever goes overboard for this style of movie.
No, I don't think so either. I think it's tonally correct. Especially the one I'm thinking of where she just like nails the tone is when she's talking to Rose, when Rose is questioning her and she starts telling her that, her parents are dead and stuff.
She's like,
that scene, she hits the nail on the head. It's subtle and it's not over the top, but it's like just enough.
I 100% agree. And they make her look a little more like sickly throughout too. But again, it's not like, crazy like what you see in these exorcism movies. She just slowly looks like a ghost, really. Like, she looks like she's gonna faint all the time, very ghostly looking. So I thought that was good. And I do love this scene. I like how we don't find out the end result of certain scenes until we go through a different time jumps. Like I like how it plays out when they go to have breakfast with the nuns and like something bad happens there, but you don't see the end result until later in the movie. I do like how it like stops at certain points to build up the suspense with different sequences too.
Yeah. I agree.
And it does have some blood in it. There's slashing in this movie, people. So I like it.
A lot of stabbing. A lot of stabbing.
It's mean stabbing.
Yeah. Throat slits and knife work. It's all knife work. Yeah, for sure.
So what? All right. So let's. It's so hard to jump around because everything happened in such a weird order. Want to talk about? I don't want to get to Joan yet because she's really the finale. We gotta save Emma Roberts for the finale. But in between, in the middle of the movie, there's this woman who's at a bus stop, and she gets picked up by a couple, and she's like on a little journey with them too, which is Emma Roberts' character. But I guess we can talk about after the nun scene is pretty fucking sweet when she murders them. I love that scene so much. When she just, and then when you cut back to showing her actually stab them, and then you get the reveal of Rose seeing like the blood and everything in the hallway. I'm like, girl, whew, you gotta run, girl. She does not run. Never split up. She stays put when she should have got out of there.
Yeah.
Poor Rose.
That is, I know this isn't a slasher. I did wish we got a little bit more of like a stalk / chase out of Rose, because I did fall for Rose as a character.
Yeah.
And I thought she deserved a little better. It was like a decent jump scare the first time you watch
when she stabs her.
When she just kind of comes out into the hallway, it's kind of very abrupt. So that is effective, but upon rewatching, I do wish we got a little bit more build up for that, and maybe her kind of like stalking her through the hallways like Michael Myers style or something, like. So yeah, I think Rose deserved a little bit more of an extended sequence.
It's pretty tragic.
She could have gotten stabbed and then tried to like escape while like being injured. That would have been maybe cool. Just her like maybe stumbling down the hallway. Something a little extra. I wish we got a little bit more. That's all.
Yeah, she pretty much just sees the body parts or whatever, and then she's just stabbed.
Turns around and just gets stabbed, and she's pretty much dead right away.
I'm like,
yeah,
girl, damn tragic. I thought you were gonna have some fight in you. She has she just dies. I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, but again, it's tonally correct because it's unforgiving, it's brutal, it's dark, and it's like, yeah, they are not gonna hold anything back. So it kind of sets up the finale because it's like, we're not afraid to just kill off our main like right away.
Which I love a ballsy move like that.
Yeah.
And not only is there stabbings, but Kat is beheading them too to collect the heads, which is crazy. I fucking love it.
Yeah, again, I wish we got a little more of when the principal arrives with the police officer.
I
wish maybe we got a little bit more of the police officer going through the hallways and seeing some of like the staircase and stuff. They find the nuns, their headless bodies, and then it pretty much cuts to him in the basement already.
Yes.
And it's like, I wish we got a little bit more, just a little bit more,
Yeah, he really like committed to the jump cuts and like jumping around a lot. So maybe like certain sequences of like holding a little more, or like building suspense and like in the moment rather than jumping to like.
He was consistent though, so I'll give him credit. I mean, that was his vision, so it's hard for me to kind of.
It didn't not work for me, but I get what you're saying when maybe like a little more like live in the moment for certain sequences for sure. What do you think about when they go find her in the boiler room and you see like the severed heads and the victims next to her, and then she's like literally says "Hail Satan" before she's shot in the shoulder? I love that.
Yeah, no, again, it was another disturbing sequence, disturbing imagery. I thought she kind of delivered the line pretty well. It wasn't too over the top, but it was enough to smart cop, shot her. I was like, please don't have another never split along where the guy just like doesn't shoot her and then she kills him. But no, he got her, and then they lock her up, put her in the mental institution.
And it's a clever way they show their shot, because when you go back to the other character, Joan Emma Roberts, you see right away that she has a scar. The guy sees she has a scar. The guy, Bill sees she has a scar. So when you go to the end, you obviously that connects it that Joan is the older version of Kat. And Joan, you see that Nolan said like Kat ends up in a mental hospital where the priest performs the exorcism at the end of her story, and Joan escapes a mental institution to go on the run. So she got out of that situation because she wants to go back and she wants to find the demon again, and she wants her man. She wants her her entity back for herself.
Well,
so
more than the actual scar, because I don't think we actually see where the shot hits her physically. I think it cuts. But more importantly than that, when we do cut to Joan in this movie, she has these visions and flashbacks
yeah.
that are the same as Catherine's. So
yes.
maybe on first watch you might think like, okay, something is like they're connected somehow spiritually, but
Right.
once you really look at it, it's like, okay, no, she
And-
is Catherine.
right.
She has the same memories.
And
so,
once you
yeah.
realize it's not happening at the same time, you're like, okay, this is her. And then when
Yeah.
you have the couple, which is also a cool reveal, I thought that the couple's daughter was Rose. They were like, oh, because they act in the beginning like they're going to visit her. And then you find out that, like, no, they just do this trip every year because their daughter died 9 years ago. So that I feel like that slow reveal like worked really well too. And where they're going, like, oh, then they say Bramford, which is like was all over the school, so you can't miss it when they say that. So I love also when Joan she like realizes who they are and she goes to the bathroom and she like and Emma Roberts does it good when she kind of like holds back that little like smile and laugh because she's like, oh
She
fuck.
laughs,
I'm
she
like, oh
laughs,
you
yeah.
fucking bitch, I love it. And then we find out that Joan's a fake name because she killed the real Joan to take her ID. When she looks at the ID, I'm like, all right, Kat is back on her shit. So I really like that slow reveal of like the whole Emma Roberts storyline. I thought that was like slowly revealed very, very, very expertly. And then when you find out like who she is and who they are, you're like, I don't know if this couple's making it out, and they sure don't. They sure don't. She sacrifices them as well to get her entity back, which I love. I love that scene in the car. She just fucking slits throats and goes for it.
Yeah, this whole Joan arc was really it might be, in terms of like artistry and filmmaking, it might be my favorite storyline. It doesn't have the horror elements that the other ones have,
Right.
but just the whole power dynamics of James Remmer's character Bill. I mean, you have the hotel scene where he's in her hotel room and she's just in a towel and he's like sitting there. You're not quite sure. It's like, is this guy about to like make a move on her? Like,
I wanted to
what's
ask
going
you
on?
how
So
you
yeah, he plays it so brilliantly. And James Remmer, I love him as an actor. He's
he's
great.
so good.
And you could tell Joan is a little uncomfortable, but not as uncomfortable as maybe she should be. And it's like, why
Right.
is she not have red flags? But it was really well done. And then when you find out that they're the parents of Rose, and you find out that Joan is actually Catherine, now all of a sudden it's a 180, and you
Flip.
know that she's
Power
in the driver's
dynamics
seat.
flip. Yep.
Yes, exactly. So I
Well,
love the way that story plays out.
Because I also thought like maybe there's two, like this is like a movie of like three different wacky stories, and I'm like, is this about a couple who's like taking this girl and like gonna
Yes.
like sacrifice
Yeah,
her
I
to
mean-
a demon, or like what's
Yeah.
happening? Like so then when the reveal, you're kind of like, oh no, like this bitch she's gonna be sacrificing them, but you don't know. Like I don't know. Like Nolan said, is he like this weird pedo who's gonna like rape her and then murder her, or is he gonna sacrifice? Like what's going on? So I think that you hit that on the head when you're like, that's kind of the most. Not the most interesting, but it's the most like question marks and kind of role reversal that happens the best. Like that plays out the best because the cat and the Rose stuff is kind of like slow build up with the tension where you kind of know you don't know where that's going, but it's like a very linear with their story. But the one with Emma Roberts, there's like so many dynamics going on, so I appreciated that.
Yeah, I agree. Not only is that storyline what connects the other two, and you get the big reveal
current
in
one,
that storyline. Yeah. It's the dynamics within the storyline, which were really well done. Even the title, that like the Blackcoat's daughter, like I'm thinking going into this, like, okay, James Remmer, he's the Blackcoat, Bill is the Blackcoat.
That's what I'm
like,
saying. I was
like so they just fuck with you. So yeah,
Blackcoat's
it's
that
good.
entity. I love it.
Yeah, yeah.
I fucking love it. And we should note that Kat after the exorcism, before we cut to the finale, she's one of the priests, like, banishes the demon supposedly out of her. She begs the demon not to leave. So she's very upset. She just wants to be with that demon. And
oh yeah,
it plays into the end when Joan goes back. Obviously, she kills the couple and she brings their corpses and their heads back to that boiler room. But now, because she wants to summon the demon, but when she goes down there now, the boiler's like all cold and turned off and it's not on. So she's like, fuck, she's really alone now, and she's trying to like sacrifice this demon. I just think the last shot is so fucking good and heartbreaking because she's bad, she's the villain, but she killed everyone she had to get this demon back who didn't come back to her. And now she's literally alone by herself in the cold, crying in the middle of the road with no one or nothing. So she really had the worst ending of all because now she's left by herself. It's so fucking dark and I love it.
yeah.
That's what you get,
me
girl.
too. No, and like you
so
said,
good.
it's an interesting dynamic between her and this entity because in normal possession movies, the person is literally being possessed and they can't control their actions and they want the thing out of them. In this, it's like a friendship, it's a partnership, and she embraces it, and that's why she kind of kills these people like fairly quickly. I would say.
Oh yeah.
It started maybe talking to her maybe like a week or two before the events of this movie. I don't think it was like that long of a process and before she's beheading people. So, and the fact that it's 9 years later and she still hasn't pretty much all the treatment she got, everything. I mean, obviously she killed Joan to get her identity, and now she killed this lovely couple who was Rose's parents. So she thought that that would be a connection back in with this entity. I mean, it is very heartbreaking because it's, not only do you feel a little bit for her because she's so isolated and alone, she is the bad guy. You feel that 9 years later, and like she's still out there, just as delusional as day one. So it's very bleak in that regard too. I mean,
she has
how many more people is she gonna kill?
Exactly. Well, how much further? Because maybe she thinks that he wants more sacrifices to come back, and how much more is she gonna do to just still be left alone? So. He's obviously having her be his bitch without even giving her the satisfaction of showing up, because he's like, oh, she's going to keep killing and killing to have maybe a sight of me or to have me back, but I'm just not going to come back. You don't know how it's going to end, but, and
I'm convinced that he's not coming back. I mean,
me too.
He's on to like bigger and better people,
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I do think that's when she has that realization, when she's just screaming and crying. She's like, fuck, like, 9 years later, too late. Like, I'm fucking done. I mean, I think she's gonna go fucking find that priest. God knows what she's gonna do to him. But But I like what you said, that like it's obviously this is a familiar. We have like possession worship and like possession movies, but this kind of just switches it up because the characters are not, the typical generic, tropes or how it plays out. It's different in this movie a little bit, which I think does make it stand out from just being your typical possession movie. It's got a lot of mood and atmosphere, but it has the characters to back it up because they're also like weird and moody. So they're not your typical, like Nolan said, it's not like she needs to be like saved at the end. She's the one who wants to be possessed at the end, and she wants this thing with her. So I think it's cool how he switched it up. It's very simple, but it's not at the same time, which is part of its charm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I fuck with this movie a lot. I really enjoy it. I was so happy. I was sick when I watched it the first time. Like, I can't focus. So I'm like, I need to watch it again. So I'm happy I did.
Some of my favorite parts of the movie, just going back real quick before we wrap it up, is how Catherine's character is on the phone a couple times throughout the movie. And then when you get the cat storyline, you realize that it wasn't her parents on the phone. It was this entity the entire time. And that voice was really creepy. I love that so much. I think it was really well done.
I appreciate that so much. And you also, like you said, I like how it's like never in focus. It's in the corners, a lot of the shots. But some shots I'm like, oh shit, he's there. He's behind Rose on the phone in that scene. Like he's talking to Kat, and when Rose is talking. So I like how it is, and it does have a lot of similarities to how you see like the Satan or the demon devil in Longlegs, but even in this one, it's not as in your face as it is in Longlegs. You have like quick shots in Longlegs. This one is just kind of like hanging out in the background a little bit. Yeah. So I appreciated that. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
This is a really good feature film debut for Osgood Perkins, and he's really on a good winning streak with me, especially of his last few. So I can't wait to see what he does next. His next movie is already going to be coming out this fall. They did a little sneak preview of that at the end of The Monkeys, so he's still going.
Yep, still going strong. Okay, that was The Blackcoat's Daughter. Anything else before we wrap it up? Any comments?
No, I can't wait I'm really excited to get to his other movies, because he's one to look out for. He's one to keep. I think he's going to be like one of the new horror guys around. He's pumping them out too.
It definitely seems like that. Yeah, for sure. There will always be a place in horror. I mean, no matter the budget, he can pump out some movies. We got some great smaller distribution channels that are killing it, like Neon and A24 are still killing it. So I mean, there's definitely room for him. So I hope he keeps going.
Hell yeah, I can't wait.
All right, so without further ado, let's get into our moments. Never split up moments.
Yes.
Do you know who goes first?
I believe the last poll I did was The Lodge, and I won, so I think I go first. I have to do a couple more polls after release them, but I'm gonna go.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because you mentioned one that's towards the end, but I'm just gonna do Rose, like after she notices, I guess I'll do specifically when she sees the body, she kind of like tries to go back. I would be running out. She turns around to go back into the school and back into her dorm, where I would be like, fuck this shit, because she knows the only one she's there with is Kat. So it's like, where is this bitch? I would be running outside. I guess it's cold, but I would still be running outside and getting out of there, trying to find help. And she's just, especially because she's been noticing that she's getting weirder and weirder throughout. So I feel like Rose, like, kind of like didn't act early enough and like noticing that there's something kooky going on. Like, she needs to get the fuck out. I know she had a lot going on with her, like, maybe pregnancy, which we do find out she wasn't pregnant because she gets her period. But
Yeah.
I think that she could have probably listened to the clues. Like, look at these clues. Some of these characters in these movies, I'm like, I'd be the fuck out of there. So yeah, I feel like Rose just didn't see how kooky Kat was getting early enough, and it led to her death when she turned back to go literally go right into her rather than just leave after she saw the body. But the cops are pretty stupid too at the end. So, but I'm gonna go with Rose. I'm gonna go with Rose for sure.
Yeah, I mean that's like the moment of the movie for sure. I she freaked out when she saw like the mess in the stairwell, so she want to go past it, I guess.
Yeah, I would probably
So,
yeah. I get that too. Like,
I guess she
shock.
thought whatever was happening was downstairs and she wanted to go
Yeah,
hide.
yeah.
But again, I just feel so bad because she really didn't get a chance to like try to
I
escape at
know.
all. As soon as she turned around, it's like, damn it. But yeah, that is the moment. So I expect you to win. But I'm gonna go with my man Bill, man. I listen to your wife,
He had
dude.
one
You
too.
gotta
Yeah, he
move
had one
on.
too. Yeah.
It's been 9 years. I'm just gonna go with the fact that he's picking up these hitchhikers after 9 years, and it's like, listen to your wife. I believe her name is Linda. She's like, Bill, what are we
Yes.
doing? Like, can we just go visit our daughter and just like, you know what I mean? Like, why are we doing this whole,
That's
like, why do
actually a
you have
good
this
point.
guilty
Yeah.
conscience? And, you know, she has that. I think that was a pretty powerful scene we didn't talk about with Linda. And she's talking to Joan in the car and she's like, did he tell you? Did he tell you what
Oh,
happened?
that's a good
Like,
monologue. She has a good
yeah,
monologue.
yeah. She's like, you know, he sees her and everyone and I don't see it at all. Like, you don't look anything like her. And I was like, damn,
That's heartbreaking for both of them.
that's pretty heartbreaking.
Yeah.
I know. It's like, damn, how are they still together? Like,
I know.
Normally
I
that
know.
drives a wedge between couples, but very
They're stuck.
heartbreaking. So
They
it's like,
feel
Bill,
stuck.
dude,
I
can
like
you
that
just
one, yeah.
focus on your wife and on the future and stop trying to like be this white knight for like these
Well,
other
you
girls
make a
that
good
remind
point
you?
because he should listen. He should listen to his wife and celebrate his daughter, not try to replace her with these new girls
Yeah.
who he keeps seeing. So he should really try to move on with her. But that lead, you're right. That's the never. It leads
Very
him to his
delusional
death.
because
Yeah.
he even tells Joan, he's asking her about God and stuff, and he's like, I see God in you, and he's like, you know, when I found you at the bus station, I asked you where you were going. You said you were going to Portsmouth, and that was just too much of a coincidence to ignore. And she's like, why are you going to Portsmouth? He's like, no, we're not going to Portsmouth. It's like, wait, so it's okay. So how big of a coincidence is that? Well, because it's in the same direction. Like, come on.
Yeah.
So
You're right.
yeah, he's just
Bill's
kind of
delusional.
clinging on to anything just to kind of get some semblance of his daughter back, and it's like, dude, you gotta move on. So I
I know
go with
he
my man
has.
Bill.
Yeah, it's just he has so much trauma, and he's just going about it in the wrong way. Unfortunately, I feel for the guy, but dude, it led to you and your wife being killed. Eesh.
I know, like sooner or later, I mean, you pick up these strange women, it's gonna
I
bite
know,
you in the ass. You,
You
know?
found the ultimate. You found literally the one who killed your daughter.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, cool. Okay, let's get to our scores. I'm
All
gonna
right.
go first, if you don't mind.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So I really, I remember when I first saw it, I was like taken aback because I thought it was going to be more of your traditional. I knew it wasn't A24 for me, but I kind of still thought it was going to be more of your like traditional linear storytelling. And you know, this is how it's going to end with possession. This is how it's going to go. But what I think, besides the performances, which I think are all great, you know, I think the biggest strength is Osgood Perkins and how he directs it and how he just lays out this mood and atmosphere. And it's one that I don't know if it's going to be as rewatchable for people to go back after the first time, but I do like to throw it on every couple winters, like Nolan said, just to get that like cold, bleak vibe. Um, it would probably be an interesting one to watch back to back with The Lodge now that I'm thinking about it, if you really want a dark night. But I'm gonna give it a really solid 8. I really do enjoy this one, and I go back to it every couple years. And I do remember after the first time watching, I'm like, oh, who is this guy? And I kind of like just had to go, I'm like, oh my God, that's Anthony Perkins' son, and he's a horror director now. But I do fuck with this one, and I do like seeing our horror girlies in it. And yeah, I think it's a really, really good slow burn horror movie. I think that if you guys like that slow build up and the sense of dread building up, and you like a little bit of psychological possession horror, I think this one's for you. I really enjoy it. It's an 8. I'm gonna give it an 8.
Okay, cool. Like you said, it's not super rewatchable. I would recommend people rewatch it though if they've only seen it once, because I think you do get a lot more out of it on that second rewatch. Now that you know, kind of, you don't have to focus so much on like trying to figure everything out. You can just kind of blend into the scenes and kind of like pick up on stuff that you wouldn't have before. So I do think it is rewatchable in that regard. Yeah, I do think this isn't a perfect movie though. It's very good. It's reminiscent of Long Legs. Like I said, this movie walked so he can run with Long Legs for sure. I do think Long Legs kind of perfected this vibe and this whole thing he was going for. You can tell. I mean, it was just, he took so much from this movie when he made Long Legs. But it is super solid. The performances are what keep this afloat. If there wasn't great performances from Emma Roberts and Kiernan Shipka, and even Lucy Boynton, like you said, she holds her own too. They are really, really solid, and they kind of hook you from start to finish. I also don't think that it's, we didn't really talk about the runtime. I think it's a pretty good runtime. I did mention that I wish a couple scenes lasted a little bit longer, but the overall runtime, it doesn't drag, even though it's a slow burn. So I do think the pacing is pretty decent. And yeah, I have a good time with this movie. I'm going to give this a 7.2.
Okay, hell yeah. All right, so we're both positive on the Blackcoat's Daughter, guys. Check this one out, especially if you haven't seen that. I feel like not many people talk about it. But we guys voted for it in that poll we ran, so maybe you guys are excited to see us talk about it. Yeah, check this one out. Osgood Perkins.
Yeah, let us know what you guys think of this movie, and if you prefer this over his other more recent movies, if you dig Long Legs more, or if you dig this one more, or if you hate both of them, let us know. Yeah. Let us know. Are you an Osgood Perkins fan? Yeah, this was exciting. I'm excited to see The Monkey. I don't know if I'm going to catch it in theaters, but
you gotta watch
once it comes to streaming. Yeah. I heard
you guys can watch this one and then switch to The Tone of the Monkey.
Very tonally different, right?
Yeah,
completely.
It's a movie about death, but it's still different. You're gonna be smiling a lot in that movie.
Okay, cool. All right, yeah, this was a fun time, and I don't think we have. Well, actually, no. Do you want to announce our next episode? Yeah, let's just announce that, because that's going to be a pretty big one. I think a classic.
Yes, guys, we're gonna move back to a little bit of an oldie 70s. We're gonna go to a classic horror movie, and we're gonna escape the winter February and head into the spring season. We're gonna cover the original Carrie, Stephen King adaptation. Brian De Palma directed Carrie, starring Sissy Spacek. So make sure, I know everyone who's watching has seen that, but get your rewatches in, because we will be talking about that one next, and I'm very excited to get into it. I think that's our first Stephen King adaptation. Is it our first?
My memory's shot.
I don't know if we've done, but so that might be our first one.
Yeah, I don't think we have. This is our first Stephen King. And what better way to kick it off than Carrie? Certified classic.
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah. So look out for that, and follow us on social media, guys, at Never Split Up Pod. We're on X and Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube, Never Split Up Podcast on YouTube. Thank you for all of our new subscribers. We're reaching closer to 300, and then after 300, we're going to just keep going. So thank you to everyone. Don't forget to leave us ratings and reviews on the podcast side of things. We're available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And yeah, we'll see you next time, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. See you later. Bye.